Hi there. I've lived with a lot of different bathrooms over the years, but this one has been the best by far. But, of course, it isn't without its mistakes. And well, I've made plenty of these while practicing architecture over what is the last 10 years now. So whether you're thinking about just refreshing or completely remodeling your existing bathroom, I thought it might be useful to share with you my top 10 bathroom design mistakes and how to fix them. Alright, we better get a move on.
Okay, now storage is probably one of the most overlooked areas of a bathroom. Why? Because we simply forget the plethora of items that live there other than your toilet, shower and sink. And as all of these things need to go somewhere, it's no wonder that some people's bathrooms look cluttered. And when you look closely at all of the stuff that's lying over every possible surface, you're probably going to notice a bunch of dust and even mold growing if your bathroom isn't adequately ventilated. But let's face it, not everyone can justify an entire remodel in order to squeeze in that little bit of extra storage, especially when some of your existing fixtures might be working fine. So here are a few things you could do. For instance, if you're someone stuck with something like a bare bones pedestal sink, you can get pedestal sink specific cabinets that have cutouts for your existing one, which means that you can get plenty of concealed storage, much like a much nicer vanity unit, without having to replace your existing sink. Or if even this seems a little bit expensive, just some simple shelving can go a long way too. Although, because of towels and clothes, dust plus moisture does tend to be a big problem in bathrooms, so you're always best concealing your stuff wherever possible. So if for instance your bathroom has a typical bare bones mirror, in my opinion you could install the GOAT of bathroom storage, which is a medicine cabinet, which typically combines your mirror with a shallow wall cabinet, which is about the depth of a bottle of soap, to hide and organize the biggest possible mess of creams, colognes and oral care. And really what makes these so useful is that it stores all of your items at eye level, making them much easier to access and organize too. And of course, if you have an even bigger budget, the most expensive way to add even more storage is to swap out your sink for a vanity unit, where I find drawers to be a whole lot more useful and efficient than cabinet doors. Which of course you already know if you've watched my top 10 kitchen design mistakes video. But if for whatever reason none of these options seem to work for you, no drill shelving is your best friend, where you can get super strong nanotape shelving, which is no joke strong enough to hold a stack of bricks, and it adheres incredibly well to tile. So by installing these, it can semi-conceal and gather your bits and pieces into one place, a bit like a catch-all for your EDC, which can at least help to stop the appearance of sprawl by providing some visual order by making multiple disorganized items appear as one. Bad faucet placement is an enormous pet peeve of mine, which is when your choice and location of faucet causes your faucet spout to not reach far enough into your sink, resulting in this awkward hand washing where your hands are pressed up against the edge of your sink with water going everywhere but the one place that you need it to, which is your hands in order to get the soap off them. Now, this is often just a result of some people picking their favourite faucet without even looking to check its reach and the angle of its spout, where the location of the faucet hole in your sink obviously needs to be close enough to work with the reach of your faucet's spout, where in order to make your sink comfortable to use, your faucet needs to cover an area ideally between 1/4 or halfway into your sink, where really the flow of water should land just in front or directly over the drain hole. And this is something that you also need to take into consideration with showers and vessel sinks too, as the height of your shower head or your faucet starts to come into play with these too, as there is nothing more frustrating than having to do a half squat just to wash the shampoo out of your hair. But despite the location of a shower head being quite difficult and expensive to fix retrospectively, When it comes to sinks, swapping a faucet for one with a longer reach isn't as difficult or expensive as you might think, as you can actually do this yourself with simple tools, as there's usually individual water shutoff valves for both hot and cold water underneath the sink itself. And if this is something that you don't really feel like tackling, I could imagine that most capable handymen would probably be able to do this for a fraction of the price of a fully qualified plumber. So if you're someone who's found yourself in this predicament, there's no point in waiting to swap out your faucet for a longer one. Now, before you assume you know what it is I'm going to say as soon as I mention the word clutter, I'm actually going to talk about something in the design world known as cluttered design, which is where rooms lack in visual order, having features which are all vying for your attention at the same time, which can make a space feel chaotic and overwhelming. And despite some crazy people being able to thrive in this kind of environment, in most cases, cluttered designs happen by mistake, which often leaves people who are having their first crack at design confused as to why they don't like the finishes that they chose, despite loving them when they saw them in the showroom. So if you have the budget to hire a snobby and overpriced professional designer like myself, you can save yourself a lot of grief by following just one rule, which is to limit finishes to a restrained colour palette. And I'm talking like just 1 or 2 main materials or colours, or maybe 3 if you somewhat know what you're doing. And then with this safeguard in place, you can then proceed to select just one thing to be the focal point of your room in order to let those 1 or 2 materials or colours you chose to serve as this feature's backdrop. And by doing this, you can really emphasize and even uplift features like a freestanding tub or a particularly elegant vanity unit and faucet, or an area of patterned tile which highlights your shower area, without them getting lost amidst the chaos. And this principle is a big reason why white space is emphasized so much in places like galleries and in graphic design, as blank space is actually crucial to allow art and imagery to have the most impact. And just to give an example, I imagine you've never tried to eat your favourite steak at the same time as your favourite ice cream, as that would probably be disgusting. Although, I've never tried it, but you get the point. But I'll just caveat all of this by saying that there are plenty of examples of where breaking this rule is done tastefully. However, there's usually an underlying theme tying these items together, so that they complement one another to create a sense of visual order instead of competing with one another, which is something that is a lot harder to get right. And just to continue with my food analogy, just as in some cases you can have too many flavours, you can also in some cases have too few, which can make a dish feel bland. Where if this is your predicament, simply by sprinkling it with some intentional high quality accessories like soaps, towels and fragrances that contrast with the rest of the room, these can serve as a low commitment way to provide character, a bit like a condiment does, where you can add flavour without even having to get involved in the cooking. I mean design. What are we talking about again? Water management is arguably the biggest thing that you can mess up in a bathroom, as it is the one room in your house that always has a ton of moisture in it. So in order to avoid mold and smells, it's crucial to get that water out of there. Now, most countries require bathrooms to be equipped with a fan, but the thing is, regular bathroom fans usually meet a very bare minimum requirement for ventilation. And because ventilation isn't really very glamorous, selfish builders and architects like myself only really care how the finished product is going to look for their website. Where in my experience, basic bathroom fans do a rather lousy job at moving air by themselves alone. And when you don't take into consideration the possibility that you're going to have multiple people showering and using this room throughout the day, wet floors and towels can start struggling to dry out. Where I'm sure you've probably smelt that smell before that overly humid bathrooms tend to have. And what only compounds this problem is when a poor fan is paired with absorbent finishes in the bathroom area, like incorrect paint, wallpaper, and untreated wood, which in some cases can become very expensive problems to fix. So if you're someone struggling with this, I'm always of the mind of picking the biggest domestic extractor fan possible just in order to be safe, where you can usually see online just how much air these move listed in cubic feet per minute or meters cubed per hour. Where you'll usually find that the good ones are inline, meaning that they're a little bit larger and require their own housing to be knocked up around the vent in order to conceal them. However, they're usually around 5 times as powerful as a regular bathroom fan, while rarely being very much louder, which honestly makes them a little bit of a no-brainer to me, especially if you're doing a remodel. Also, another thing you can do to aid ventilation that requires zero work is to just ensure that you're heating this room more than the rest of your house, as trying to save on your heating bill in this room of the home is not something that I would recommend, as if you know anything about how water vapor works, you'll know that not heating your bathroom is only going to lock the moisture in. So by ensuring that this room is always several degrees warmer than the rest of your home, it can allow this moisture to evaporate and escape with the warm air, which wants to rise, causing fresh cool air to be sucked in its place, which is where things like heated towel rails do a really good job in killing 2 birds with just 1 stone, by providing a place to hang your towels and also heat your bathroom in order to aid adequate airflow. And when you pair these with a thermostat, you can even schedule them to turn on at the same time that you tend to take a shower, which is incredibly convenient. Now, lighting is important in every room of the home, but in bathrooms, it's arguably even more important, as not only is it another work area, much like your kitchen, but it's a work area for your face, as it's also the room where you're going to groom and get ready and probably check yourself out a little bit too much in private. Lighting in this room is also vitally important if you or your partner wears makeup and tends to apply it in the bathroom, as bad lighting often ends up making makeup look a little bit off, which you or your partner probably don't want at all. But I suppose the question is, what is bad lighting? Now, most of our brains are immediately going to think about brightness, which is reasonable as you need light in order to see, but bright lighting doesn't necessarily make it good. In order for lighting to be good, you need to take 3 additional things into consideration, which are temperature, which is how cool or warm a light feels, which is measured in Kelvin, softness, which is how diffused or large a light source is, and direction, which is where the light is placed. Okay, so first let's talk about temperature. Now, unlike somewhere like your bedroom or living room, which wants to feel warm and relaxing once the sun starts to set, a bathroom, which is a work area, wants to mimic natural daylight to especially care for things like the application of makeup or being a narcissist in general, where you'll generally find that anything between 3 to 4,000 Kelvin strikes a really nice balance between the comfort and warmth of a room versus the accuracy that natural daylight can provide, which often does tend to feel a little bit cold, harsh, and sterile when coming from most light fixtures. And then when it comes to softness and direction, these things really go hand in hand with the types of fixtures that you choose. For example, we have spotlights in our bathroom, which are at least positioned optimally over the sinks. However, hard overhead lighting that comes from a small and powerful source tends to be harsh, despite being the most convenient when it comes to installation. So seeing as bathrooms are usually the place where you inspect your face and poke at blackheads, it's the one room of your home that benefits from soft diffused wall lighting, where wall lighting is in an optimal position because it's lighting you from the front instead of from above you. So despite it requiring a little bit more work and planning when it comes to wiring, if you're remodeling, opting for sconces on either side of a vanity unit do the best job at providing an even and flattering light source for your face. But as sconces can take up a good chunk of wall space that can be used for storage, medicine cabinets that are combined with LED strips can help you get the best of both worlds when you place LED lighting above and below them. Or you can simply pick a cabinet that has integrated lighting already, where you can then pair these with overhead lighting in the areas away from the sink, like the shower, so that your room achieves a good overall level of brightness. As despite dark and moody powder rooms looking fantastic, it's the opposite of what you're likely going to want to live with for your main bathroom. Now, bathrooms are also often the most convenient room to get ready in, so they tend to double as a dressing area. But because of this, and because tech is becoming an increasingly big part of our lives, it can mean that outlets become quite important. But because electricity and water don't mix well at all, it's right to assume that running appliances in the bathroom is a bad idea, where you'll find that most countries have specific outlets with different safety measures between countries for the bathroom. So unlike in the UK, here in Canada, you can plug your hairdryer or straightener straight into your bathroom outlet along with all of the other low voltage things that need charging, such as electric toothbrushes, shavers, and smart wearables, which might seem a little bit bonkers for some of us Brits. And despite the differences when it comes to being able to use high voltage appliances, I found that the bathroom is in fact the best place for charging smart wearables, as this is the one place where you take them off for an extended period twice a day when showering or washing your face, which is usually enough to keep them topped up with enough juice to wear them to bed for their sleep tracking abilities. But of course, not everyone may be as irritating as me when it comes to endorsing good health, and this isn't what we're here to talk about. The point is, with all this increasing amount of stuff that requires charging and docking with their own little cable, countertops can get incredibly messy, where having to plug devices in and out every time you want to use them is not ideal if you're going to be doing it every single day. So for us to try and hide some of this mess, we use a cable tidy box that we had lying around, which makes for a half decent fix, especially if you actually choose one that's a more reasonable size. And if you live in a place where your outlet is irritatingly placed somewhere without a surface beneath it, outlet shelves can be another great solution to stop cables being strewn around by charging things right above the outlet itself. Although I'd have to warn against charging stuff that might get wet in this location, like your toothbrush, for somewhat obvious reasons. But when remodeling a new bathroom, it's quite smart to provide a way to have USB outlets within your storage areas themselves too, if your local building regulations allow it. As a spider's web of chargers permanently living next to your beautiful new vanity unit is one of those things that a lot of people and architects don't consider with brand new bathroom designs, despite being a reality once it comes to actually living with them. Whereby cleverly locating outlets in the most appropriate locations ahead of time, it can make a bathroom a whole lot more pleasant to live with. Now, because the bathroom is the one room of the home that is constantly getting wet, the materials you choose are incredibly important when it comes to keeping it clean too. Now, I get that some finishes just look way nicer than others, but the reality is that when something like a fixture is constantly getting wet, you will be continually getting watermarks on them. So just like how black cars are renowned for being a nightmare to keep clean, as they tend to look filthy after just one rainfall, black fixtures are very much the same, especially when compared to more forgiving colours like silver that more closely match the colour of the watermark that are inevitably going to end up on there. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't get black fixtures, or black cars for that matter, because that would be stupid. But if you're not someone with a whole lot of time for cleaning, you've got to be realistic about how often you're willing to keep these maintained, as it can be a bit of a shock as to how terrible black fixtures can start looking after only a few days. And although not quite as bad, the same really goes for chrome too, where I personally would rather choose nickel or stainless steel for my own bathroom and kitchen, as this finish more closely matches the water spots, so they tend to look cleaner for longer. And I'm not really sure what that says about me, but in my experience it makes them a lot more pleasing to live with, especially in the shower area, which is usually always very wet. And before we move off this topic, when it comes to floors, you're not only dealing with water, but the dirt that is inevitably trodden around, where going too bright can be a big mistake, especially when it comes to things like grout, where pale colours tends to be a risky choice for floors, as dirt only soaks into them, leaving them a horrible uneven brown. So really darker floor finishes tend to require a lot less attention and make things like hairs stand out a lot less too if you have dark hair like our family does, which can help you to feel a little bit less bothered about them sitting there until your floor's actually due for a clean. And if you're going for a full remodel, you'd probably appreciate hearing that on top of this, you can boost the cleanliness factor with your fixtures too, by going for things like wall-hung toilets which eliminate corners for things like dust and dirt to hide in. And they're also far easier to clean around while also making your space feel larger too, as it lifts the toilet up off the floor, which provides the illusion that you can walk underneath there, where our brains tend to recognize this open floor area as inhabitable space, where really this principle of eliminating corners for dirt to hide in should be applied to the entire room, where, for instance, a completely tiled bathroom eliminates the need for baseboards too, as they're usually only there to protect and hide the typically unsightly joint between your drywall and floor, where these tend to especially gather dust and grime in this humid and lint-prone room. Next up, mirrors are a bathroom essential that are required in order for you to keep your fabulous appearance in check. But they also have a twofold purpose, as because bathrooms are often the smallest room in your home, mirrors can double how large and bright they feel too. So a mistake I've made before, and one that I often see, is bathrooms with mirrors that are just far too small for them, as typically a mirror should be proportional to the vanity and placed at a height that accommodates its inhabitants. However, small spaces are often helped massively with large mirrors, which is something that really should be taken into consideration when it comes to a remodeling budget, where it makes a lot of sense to factor in a proper mirror or mirrored medicine cabinet into the budget early, as they can provide a lot more bang for your buck than more expensive tiles or finishes. Where by even installing permanent large mirrors in somewhere like a powder or shower room, this can double its amount of perceived space and reduce the need for alternate wall finishes. So for a lot of homeowners, this can actually serve as a very worthwhile investment, as it can do so much to increase the room's appeal, as the bathroom is the one room that large mirrors are always welcome in. Durability. Now, because bathrooms deal with so much water, aside from having adequate ventilation and materials that are easy to clean, it's also vitally important that the materials and fixtures that you choose are durable by being resistant to moisture and continual wear too. So when it comes to remodeling in particular, despite it being very smart to start out with a budget, it's very easy to start thinking that you have more budget than you actually do because you neglect to consider the added cost of fixtures and finishes that are actually reliable. A mistake I've made in the past is choosing cheaper brands for things that get continual use, like toilets and faucets, where you often tend to get what you pay for, which is also true of the contractor that you end up choosing as well. So by picking from reputable brands and contractors, you're actually a lot less likely to find yourself running into trouble down the line. And despite how often I like to end up testing this theory, I often find the phrase "buy cheap, buy twice" to be mostly true. And of course, a really rather obvious mistake is choosing porous finishes because of the way that they look instead of how they actually hold up against water, where some owners aren't aware that things like marble and wood require resealing over time, whereas materials like stone or even porcelain or ceramic tile have better water-resistant properties while often being cheaper too. And speaking from experience, this could perhaps allow you to do things like entirely tile a room in a cheaper tile rather than half tile a room in a more expensive one, where a fully tiled room can arguably look a whole lot more impressive than a half tiled room in a more expensive tile. But finally, when doing a remodel, you have a golden opportunity, which rarely comes by, to design a truly fantastic space with clever and impressive touches, where perhaps the biggest mistake of all is to go about this in a rush, only to overlook truly fantastic design opportunities because you simply want it all to happen now. So it is always incredibly worthwhile to hold out until you can truly afford what you truly want, or to wait until you're 100% certain you're happy with your design before you start ploughing ahead. As what you do to your bathroom will be permanent, and this room, along with your kitchen, are pretty much the only pieces of design that a homeowner will end up passing on when selling. Which means that the design of your bathroom and kitchen can either add or detract from the overall desirability and value of your home. Apart from in Germany, where apparently they take their kitchens with them when they move, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But other than some of the things that I've already mentioned, like selecting wall-hung fixtures and mirrored medicine cabinets, one of the biggest missed opportunities you can really only do during a remodel relates to tiling, where underneath these tiles you have the unique opportunity before work begins to create niches between the studs in your wall for things like your soaps and shampoos in the shower area, which can really stop the unsightly and unintentional appearance of them sitting on your shower room floor or on the ledge of your bathtub. And you can even do the same thing to create recessed medicine cabinets too, which is a very clever touch that I don't see done that often. But apart from inside the walls, you also have the chance to install electric underfloor heating underneath the floor, which is much more shallow than the usual underfloor heating and has become easier than ever to install, while adding a sense of luxury and increased warmth compared to something like an unsightly radiator, where a heated floor actually more effectively helps to keep a bathroom dry by spreading the heating surface across the entire room, rather than confining it to a corner like what a radiator does. And apart from doing things underneath the tiles themselves, you can also take this opportunity to introduce really nice touches like changing the location of your shower's mixer tap so that you don't get your arm wet every time you go to turn it on. And now's the time to add in things like handheld shower heads too, which also make cleaning the shower itself far easier. And I say this because once all of the tiling is done, there are a lot of things you can't go back in and add down the line. And to create a truly impressive bathroom, it's really worthwhile taking the time to invest the most bang for your buck features as you possibly can, which is something that the future you is sure to appreciate you doing. But one last example of fitting the maximum amount of functionality in the smallest amount of space is with your everyday carry, where the sponsors of today's video, Bellroy, often do this with their products, with optimized designs that organize your life for things like work and travel through the help of items like bags, wallets, and organizers, with the perfect solution for almost every lifestyle, with versatile options that cater to almost any event or occasion, where they always seem to add a bunch of clever touches that make work and travel that bit easier and more enjoyable. My personal favourites are their lightweight items like their sling and backpack, as excess weight is something that I hate carrying around with me. So as these products solve this for me with zero compromise, Bellroy are now offering this as my very own personalised travel bundle with a huge 20% discount. Or if any of their other products interest you, you can simply get 10% off your entire purchase on their website using the link down in the description below. But finally, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, YouTube reckons you might also enjoy this next one too.